Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
Welcome to the Women's Roundtable podcast, powered by the Think Factory, where we learn how women think big and grow their business. My name is Laura Siclari, a partner with Outside General Counsel Solutions, and I'm the host of today's episode. I'd like to introduce today's guest, Dr. Rhoda Dona Flowers. Dr. Dona Flowers hails from the great state of New Jersey and is a board-certified family medicine doctor, a successful businesswoman, and an esteemed executive coach. As a consultant, she integrates her medical expertise with the neuroscience behind well-being, happiness, and productivity. Dr. Dona Flowers is also a captivating speaker and presenter and often hosts workshops for business organizations. Dr. Dona Flowers, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura.
I'm very excited today. You are quite an accomplished woman and a professional, and I can't wait to talk to you about what you're up to currently. First, tell me about your medical practice.
Yeah, absolutely. So my medical practice is a family medicine base, and we do see from pediatrics onto geriatrics, so we see the full range. My focus is on executive wellness, of really helping professionals, entrepreneurs, attorneys such as yourself, physicians, those who serve society at a higher level, just to maintain a certain level of wellness. We run a lot. I don't know if you know this, but we actually spend 1/3 of our lives, the average person, mind you, spends 1/3 of their life or 90,000 plus hours working over a lifetime. Right?
That's a lot.
And so that's a 40-hour work week. I don't know if you work a 40-hour work week, but if you work anywhere over that, you're easily spending half of your time at work. And so it's really important to me that we take care of those who take care of us.
That's very interesting. So I know that, you are a practicing doctor. I know when we talked in the past that a lot of your work has moved to virtual, and it's with more, I would say, the higher impact executive professionals. And it's almost like a concierge medical service is probably how I would describe it. So tell me how you got into that niche group of professionals and how you service them in terms of, I would say, their medical needs.
Yeah, so actually we started this pre-pandemic, and it really took off during the pandemic, right? Just really meeting professionals at a time that was convenient for them, right? So most, physicians, attorneys, et cetera, they work 7 hours at 7 a.m., 6 a.m. They do 12-hour shifts. They're commuting back and forth from the city. And so the idea of commuting an hour to their doctor's office, spending an hour in the waiting room, right, seeing the doctor for 20 minutes and then going back on their commute just didn't resonate with a lot of them, so they didn't go to the doctor, right? And so seeing that need, I just really said, hey, why don't you schedule at a time that's convenient for you? And at one point, I would actually go to their office or go to their home or to, another location and service them. But with the pandemic, it became, hey, we can do this by Zoom. I can send you for your labs either before we meet or after we meet, and I can take care of you on a time that's convenient for you.
Right. And obviously, if somebody needs to meet physically with the doctor, you could do that. But a lot of what folks need are the blood work. I think you had mentioned annual insurance panel testing, various things that executives need, right?
Correct. So executives do need a special type of wellness physical that happens annually every year with their company. It's the same physical that everyone gets, plus a little bit more. So they do need to do that annually. And I am a supplement for their regular provider. Can I be their regular provider? Absolutely. But usually there's a wait time to get into your regular provider. And I try to bypass that for some of our frontline workers.
That's great. I love that. You, I know you also describe yourself as a fractional chief happiness officer, big focus on, wellness, mental wellness. I want to hear about what you're doing with that specifically. But before we do that, can we geek out a little bit and you tell me a little bit of the neuroscience behind, feeling well, being productive, things like that?
Yeah. So, we can geek out for like hours on it. We can talk about the dopamine and the cortisol levels, the different parts of the brain, the amygdala. We can talk about all of that. But, I've really learned to make it simple over the years. So really happiness is about what I call equanimity, right? Or being level. We are all going to have challenges in our life, right? It's really about creating a frame where you accept the challenges because they are real. So we're not dismissing them. We're acknowledging them. And we're also taking a position of how can I allow this thing to best serve me in this moment and in the future, right? So it's about making sure that we are well, making sure that we have fueled our bodies with all of the things that we need. Most of us are deficient in vitamin D, vitamin B12, vitamin K, exercise. We don't exercise enough, right? So it's really about creating a landscape within ourselves where we're hydrated, we have our nutrients, we're exercising, and we're understanding that life will life, and we have to approach life in a way that keeps us even keel or in a state of equanimity.
And how do you go about, I guess, training professionals or, business folks on that? Obviously, you could be a speaker, but how do you actually implement that, in a business setting for folks who are really out of level or, just the stresses of work are at a higher impact than, than is healthy?
Yeah. So we do it a couple of different ways, right? So as a chief happiness officer, you have access to, through me, a portal where you can actually learn about the neuroscience, like the real geeky stuff, right? The neuroscience of happiness. And they're done in fun, bite-sized modules that the employees can sit through 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. That really helps with mindfulness, that helps with communication, helps them with engagement and productivity. I also offer our favorite, biohacking, right?
Tell me about that.
Yeah. How do I get my body to perform optimally, right? We work, again, a third of our lives, so presumably we're indoors. We're not getting that good vitamin D from the sun, right? So how do I add vitamin D either through food or through supplementation, right, so that I can get a boost of energy? Do I need more B12? I believe the statistics are somewhere around 80% of the workforce has either metabolic syndrome or are overweight. And so we do fun challenges in 6-week intervals where people can choose an area that they want to improve in. Do they want to make their fitness better? Do they want to make maybe mental health better? Do they want to work on their anxiety, right? What area of your health do you want to work on to be a better performer? We make sure it's inclusive, it's fun, and it really produces results for the individual and by extension, the company.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, giving employees access to that portal. Sounds really innovative because employee portals, you think most often of, where do I find the employee handbook or my PTO days? But to have the portal for really balancing their mental health stress levels and their physical health, sounds really innovative. Are certain professionals more inclined to experience and ignore their burnout and their stress-related disorders?
Ouch. That's a tough question. Yes, is the answer to that question. Now, I'll preface it by saying this. Everyone has a different capacity for stress, right? So a level 10 stress for one person, that same stress might be a level 1 stress for another person, right? So just
understood. Yes.
Yeah, kind of keep that in mind. However, I will say there are professions, and I will say I come from one of them, right? Physicians that are more prone to stress and more prone to ignore our stress. Why?
That was kind of a trick question. I figured you would go with attorneys and doctors, but I was curious.
Yep. Yeah, attorneys too, right? So there are certain professions where the clients come first or the patient comes first, right? Or, here, let's go this way. How about the military? The mission comes first, right?
Yes.
Or let's go to sports, right? The win comes first. The goal comes first. The championship comes first. So that's what we hear. What we don't hear, right, but it's a directive in medicine, in law, in the military, in, sports, is never show weakness. Never show weakness. And so if the patient comes first, but I'm not okay, but I can't show weakness, that's a recipe for burnout, for sure.
Yes. And probably not only burnout, but probably hiding it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've had several patients who have gone years, undiagnosed, underdiagnosed, or just suffering because of their unwillingness to admit to pain, to admit to decreased capacity. And it's interesting. It does hurt the patient. It hurts their family, but it also hurts the industry and the people that they're there to serve as well. So I'm really on a mission to say it's okay to not be okay, right? And create a safe space for people to come in when they're not okay.
Right, to admit that I'm not in an okay place and I'd like to learn how to get there, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've mentioned before, well, we talked about this, so if I'm misstating this, you can correct me, but we talked about, sometimes you said moral injury in the workplace and how that can lead to these conditions too. So tell me what you mean by moral injury.
Laura, you got all the topics today.
Yes.
Yeah. So moral injury, right? So as an attorney, right, you have a certain outcome that you want for your patients, or for your clients rather, right? Mm-hmm. And there are things that sometimes are outside of your control, right, that prevent you from getting the outcome that you desire. As a physician, the same applies. There's certain outcomes that I want for my patients that sometimes there are things outside of my control that keeps me from getting that outcome. Let's take the pandemic, for example. I have 10 patients, but I only have 3 ventilators. But all 10 patients need a ventilator. What do I do? Because if they don't get a ventilator, their outcome is not the outcome that I want for them, right? So that puts me in a position where I have a moral conflict. I have to choose who gets the ventilator, right? I have to choose who has the outcome, or who has a chance, mind you, at the outcome that I really want, right?
Right, who gets the priority.
Yeah, who gets the priority, yeah. So that really sets the stage for moral injury, because, I know what I need to do, I know what I want to do, but I don't have the resources to do it. Right. So that happens. It happens every day, of course, but definitely we saw that during the pandemic.
I would say certainly in law, we often experience that. I say when you have a potential client who has a legal need or an injustice that they're experiencing, but can't afford to hire an attorney. I do sit with that a lot as well. So I understand that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
It is tough.
And some people, they internalize it really to the point of anxiety. They internalize it to the point of depression. And anxiety and depression, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, right? After a point, your body will actually start to respond to that with elevated cortisol levels, sleeplessness, obesity, overeating, stress, hair loss.
Yeah, well, I think it's amazing that you're focusing on that as a component of, your overall wellness work that you're doing. It's really amazing. If it's okay, I wanted to pivot a little bit into your executive coaching work. Yeah. Because I find that interesting as well. Tell me a little bit about the types of professionals that you coach and, at what point they are in their careers when they might be looking for someone like you.
Yeah. So in the executive space, I find that I have a lot of people who are transitioning careers, right? So, they've been successful executives in their space, and now they themselves are perhaps going into the coaching realm, or perhaps they're looking to make a lateral move, or maybe going into more philanthropy. I have quite a few medical students who are even considering should they go into medicine. I have residents who are considering now, or interns or students rather, who are considering what specialties should I do. So I really see people from multiple walks of life. We are, as coaches, executive certified coaches, right? We are trained in a framework that really allows us to service a wide range of people, but those are the folks who thus far have been attracted to my services. I have attorneys as well, judges, engineers, physicians, people who are really serving our society at a point where they themselves recognize that they need the support, right? So I'm here for the leader. So I'm the leader's coach, if you will.
That's great. And when they're looking to transition and need that, executive coaching and making a pivot in their career, that's the type of support, that you are ideally equipped to handle as well, right?
Equipped for that, also equipped for other things, right? So with my background in business, as you're aware, I've been principal of an urgent care chain, my own practice. I've helped others in various industries, medical lab, medical spa, etc. I am also equipped to help them to start businesses, grow businesses, and also prepare them to exit businesses. And so I have quite a few boomers that we're in conversation about how to transition, right? So funny story. I don't know if it's funny to you, but I have some doctors who I was looking at helping transition. And when I went to their office, we're used to EHR. I grew up on the EHR, but their office was still lined with paper charts. Right?
That's a big part of transition then.
It is a huge
the
part,
paper
right?
file.
Right. So the first thing was to help them to mentally transition from not writing on paper, scanning everything in, and getting to the EHR. And then, of course, all of the other financial components, considerations, etc. So really multiple points of transition I find that I excel in as well.
Yeah, and I'd like to touch on something that you just said. I wasn't sure if we'd get a chance to get there in this podcast, but since you brought it up, you do so many things. I wasn't sure we could even get to it all today, but I do want to touch on your work with helping people be the entrepreneurs that, they want to be. And particularly, I know a part of that is, giving them some basic financial literacy. So I know you feel, strongly about that. So tell me what you do and how you believe in giving back in those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I like to tell the story. So my parents are immigrants from Haiti, right? Haiti. My father likes to say he came to the States with a shirt on his back and $14 in his pockets, right? And, my father and others of that generation were able to carve out a space for themselves in the U.S. And it's not just immigrants from Haiti, from everywhere in the world, right? So America is a land of opportunity, right? And so really I've taken a position that to best serve our country really is to contribute to the economy, right? So that is one way of giving back to a country that's given so much to us, is to contribute to our economy. And also another way is to provide hope and to provide an example of what's possible to other people, and to provide the education to help them to walk in that possibility. And, interestingly enough, wellness is also part of that, right? To get them to a state of wellness, to get them to see what's possible. A lot of times people aren't walking in the fullness of who they are because they don't feel well, right? And it might be like a low underlying gnawing thing that they can't quite put their finger on, but their health is just not optimized, right? They might need some vitamin D, B12, magnesium, good to go. So just really helping you optimize your understanding, optimize your health, and optimize your potential.
I love that. And I know you told me right before we started recording, you're actually in talks right now or partnering with somebody to offer a financial literacy program this summer for youth, right?
Yes, really exciting. So it's going to be a 6-week primer for girls age 15 through 18. And what they get to learn are the fundamentals, including budgeting, how to use credit, how to start a business, and the principles of saving and investing. So really exciting.
I love that. And actually, I wanted, since we are the Women's Roundtable podcast today, I did want to, turn to, the side of you being a female physician, coach, and speaker, especially working with high-level executives. What would you say are the characteristics of women that make them ideal for leadership roles?
Oh, man, you're on a roll with the questions. I love them. Thank you.
Yeah.
What makes women... So, I think our superpower is probably the thing that has been frowned upon for some time, right? So for me, it's our compassion, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's our nurturing nature. It's our ability to bring together a tribe. That is our superpower as leaders, right? So we're able to, let's take our maternal role, right, for a moment. We're able to take 4 different personalities of 4 different children and make them work as a unit, right? Like a great coach, a great, let's say a Phil Jackson, for example, able to take different players of different backgrounds, different skill sets, we get them together, and in a nurturing way, we nurture them and create this powerhouse team. So I think that is our superpower as women, is really to have more of a compassionate lens versus like a top-down command and control perspective, which even if we wanted to, would not work with this generation at all, right? We have 5 different generations in the workforce. It's not going down.
That's true. That's a great point, actually. Yeah, I love that. So it's the nurturing nature, compassionate nature of women, whereas it might have seemed like a soft skill or a weakness in the past. We have definitely seen women executive leadership bring that as a unique skill set, to leadership positions.
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah.
And I would say probably a calmness sometimes in leading as well that female dynamics can bring, right?
Yeah, I love that you said that. It is a calmness, which is a little bit different than the stoicism, right? So we're used to calm as being portrayed in a stoic manner, right? So it's not the stone-faced calmness. It's more of a safety, a calmness that creates safety. So we talk about leadership in the eye of the storm, right? So there's chaos around me, but I'm the center, I'm the safe space, I am calm.
I love that. That's actually a great analogy. At the same time, at least speaking from personal experience, female executives, I think, are often uniquely experienced burnout and stress as well, especially, trying to balance a career and family and being constantly bombarded with the pressure of achieving, the elusive balance between the two. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow. You are on a roll today, Laura. Let's start there. So
this is going to be the best podcast ever because we're touching it all.
We're touching it all. Well, you're phenomenal. So your podcasts are always amazing. I love listening to them. There is no such thing as balance, right? Not in the way.
I knew you were going to say that.
I have to burst that bubble. Not in the way that people conceptualize it, right? So if you think of balance, right, there's something on the left, simultaneously there's something on the right, and there's that equanimity, right? That state of being equal. It doesn't happen that way, right? There's something on the left right now, but that's the only thing I can focus on, and that's the only thing I have to focus on. And when I'm done with that, then I'll pick up this other thing that's on the right, and I will focus on that, give it my full attention. And it's the frequency in which I switch those things out that then creates the balance, right? It's not in the moment. And so I can't possibly be a mom making breakfast for my child in this moment while I'm doing the interview with you, right? It just wouldn't work. So I have to make breakfast and then have the interview, or have the interview and then make breakfast.
Yes, I completely agree. The idea that your life will always be in balance, where your work and your family are getting equal attention, I think is just impossible. And society trying to get women to achieve that balance is really just, I think, a misnomer. I think it's serving the side that you need in a certain moment is what you're saying.
Absolutely. So we not only serve the side that we need in the moment, but I'll say pulling on our other superpower, which is really gathering a tribe around us to support us, to learn to delegate, right? And to learn to delete. We do too much, and not all of it is necessary. So really, really taking inventory and seeing what are some things that are not serving me in this season, right? And maybe getting rid of those things.
I love that. What can we delete?
Yeah, what can we delete? What can we? So it's actually interesting. I do this exercise with some of my executive clients, and it's a subtraction exercise, right? Because oftentimes when we have a dilemma, we think, what can I add? Who can I add? What can I put in? My question is, what do we need to take away? what's not serving us? Why is it so complex? Right? Why is it so hard? What if we made it simple? What if this were easy? What would it look like? And so we go through the exercise of making it easy.
I love that. I really do. I think it's very powerful. What about a woman who is younger? She's a younger generation, younger female working their way up in their career. Do you have any advice for women, the up and coming woman professional?
Yeah. So I'll start by saying this. I have learned so much from the up and coming woman professional. They are so savvy. It's like not even funny. My advice to them would be twofold. Trust yourself, right? And lean on the wisdom of those who have come before you, right? And I say in that order because we will all get advice and we will all give advice. Not all advice is created equal, right? So definitely learn from history, right? Learn from those who have come before you and see how it fits for who you are right now and who you want to be, right? Because sometimes who we are right now is in line with who we'll be in 5 years, but 2.5 years into your journey, you might completely pivot and the same advice that wasn't relevant becomes relevant.
That's good. And in touching on one thing you said is the people that came before you, because it ties into mentorship, because you have a very unique perspective on mentorship. A mentor does not always have to be a live mentor, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell me about that. Tell me about the importance of mentorships, the various types.
Yeah. So mentorship is critical. Like we are in this world for, 80 years at best, right? Maybe 100 if we're fortunate. There are millennia before us, who knows millennia after. So there's so much to learn in this world. And it's best, I think, learned by experience, lived your own, or the lived experiences of others, right? So I'm a big fan of reading, of listening to credible people on YouTube, or, other, LinkedIn, other sources who have traveled the journey that we're on, travel the road that we're on, and can give us the insight on what works, what doesn't work, what pitfalls to avoid. And those can be done live, real time, right, through coaching, through mentoring, and it can also be done through a good book, right, a great podcast like this one.
Yeah, I think you had said on a prior time when we spoke that you can engage in self-mentorship in some ways because you can be guided by the question you have and then seek the answer through, I think you said historical figures, right? Books, podcasts. Yeah. I love the idea of taking ownership of your own mentorship.
First of all, I love being a guest of yours. I love how you listen. I love your questions. I love it all. Laura, you're amazing. Self-leadership, self-mentorship is definitely very important because the answer lies within you. So really what I coach people through, and I actually have a book coming out, it's really about asking yourself different questions so you can find the answer that's within yourself, right? I can't really say, hey, if you're asking, should I have chocolate or vanilla? Have the vanilla. It's the best, right? Well, you may not like vanilla, right? So it doesn't resonate with you. So really the answer that resonates with you requires a question that can pull that answer out of you, right? So we just walk through the exercise of asking yourself better questions.
I like that a lot. I do. Well, we are at time. So before we go, I know we got to wrap things up, unfortunately, but one of our traditions at the Think Factory, we ask all of our guests the same question, which is what keeps you up at night? So what keeps you up at night currently in your professional development or work?
Yeah, interesting. So generally what keeps me up at night are the gaps in society, right? So the financial literacy, the gap in financial literacy, the gap in equity of care, just the various gaps that exist that I'm trying to fill, really. And it's how do I bridge the gap? How do I best serve the people that I'm called to serve, right? What message do they need to hear in the moment? Who do I need to show up as for them in the moment? So that's really what keeps me up.
Well, that's a powerful thing to keep you up at night. And I'm glad that there are people like you who believe that there are gaps to be filled and want to be the ones filling them. So I really appreciate everything that you do. And I'm so grateful that you came on the podcast today with me, Doctor.
Glad to be here.
Well, good. Thank you for your time today. Be sure and check out the other Women's Roundtable podcasts so you can learn how women think big and grow their business.